Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Saturday HOA Brunch, presented by Angius&Terry, LLP. Please sit back, relax, and join Brad Epstein and Jonathan Broderick for an hour of entertaining information about HOAs and HOA law.
Good morning, Sacramento. It's the Saturday HOA Brunch, and this is the hour that you get to listen to Brad Epstein and myself with guests from the industry talk about community associations. Isn't that great?
Yes, Brad Epstein,
No,
Mr.
that's
Broderick,
right, your radio
my
name.
illustrious co-host. Yes, we're Angius&Terry, bringing to you the Saturday HOA Brunch episode number
69.
Excellent.
Little chuckles in the back from our friend that's going to be joining us. But yes, episode 69, we're powering through as summers began here in Sacramento, but fortunately there's going to be a light breeze, and I think we're going to go hit the links after this, right?
Oh, we should. I hope so.
Yeah.
I've been planning for it, practicing.
Yeah, you went out once in the last 6 months. What's practice?
That's practice.
All right, perfect. Okay, so right now you'll notice when you're driving around on the freeways in Sacramento that construction's picking up, right? And this is the middle of the busy season for large-scale construction projects and community associations. So what better to bring in the president of a very successful large construction firm, Miss Reagan Brown from the GB Group. Welcome, Reagan.
Thank you, and I appreciate you having me back. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, that's right. She was here before, so this is her second tour of duty. Call in, you guys, at 888-923-1380, 888-923-1380, or text us at 916-747-4622, 916-747-4622. 4622. Love the text. We got some great texts. Didn't we get, you know what we got last week? We got a joke. We got a little joke.
About Winnie the
And
Pooh?
I had such feedback during the week about that joke that people thought that it was a really funny joke. And so I've been thinking all day, what joke can I say? And I thought, forget about that. I want someone to text in another joke. If they can text in a community association joke, right, Reagan? You know, wouldn't that be great?
Humor's great.
Yeah.
It's always good.
Reagan Brown with the GB Group. We're so happy she is here today.
Yeah, so Reagan, why don't you go ahead and just tell us about this company, the GB Group, where the offices are located, how to get in touch with you, what types of projects you guys can handle, and just, kind of brag about yourself and toot your own horn.
Oh, thank you. Well, we've been in business 25 years this year, and we are based in the Bay Area. We have 4 offices, one in South San Jose, one in the East Bay, San Ramon area, Sacramento, and then out in Nevada in Las Vegas. So pretty much we service from Monterey to Sacramento. And we've always specialized in homeowner association reconstruction, repairs, and maintenance.
Excellent.
Yes, one of the top companies. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And when we think about the GB Group, we think about, at least I do, and a lot of the board members I work with and managers, as a very ethical company, a very ethical construction company. And that's like a breath of fresh air. Because
Yes.
I'm going to tell you, board members and community association managers come to me, and they're worried about almost above anything they do is to make sure their construction projects get done and they don't get ripped off. And they really don't know where, they're sort of lost in this because there's a lot of horror stories, right?
Yes, and ethics are definitely an area they should be concerned in. And the Contractors Licensing Board does everything they can to try to take the complaints in and track down non-licensed or unethical type of companies, but they rely heavily on the public to notify them of that. So that is a really good place to start because you want to look at the business identity, the business practices, and the construction practices of the contractors that you're interviewing. And that's a really good place to start.
It is. It's like, what questions should we ask when we're going to hire a contractor, right, Jonathan?
Well,
because
I think that's
these are
the
some big
topic
projects.
today.
Right, these are some big projects.
Multi-million-dollar reconstruction projects.
Right, consider that some community associations are huge, right? But even if you have a small 30-unit condominium development, it's everything, right? We always like to say people, pets, and parking are important, but
roofs, siding, windows, waterproofing, those are all important too.
Right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
the infrastructure. That's why there's so many laws directly on point concerning the reserves, right? You can't just nilly-willy take money from the reserves as the money that association set aside to replace the major components to pay for the lights. If you fall behind in your operating expense, you can just switch your money out of your reserves without actually going through a protocol, a procedure. So super important.
Yeah. So Reagan, today's pretty much we're just going to discuss how to conduct an effective interview with your contractor, because that's important when you guys go out and put your presentation on in front of a board of directors for a community association and a manager. There's a lot of key components that these boards should emphasize when they're thoroughly investigating which contractor they're going to select to do a 300 unit siding reskin and roofs and windows and all that stuff.
And they should also include that even for very small projects, because everything's going to hold a warranty. And you want to make sure that regardless of the size of your project, that you're really getting the right contractor for the job, and that you're interviewing with the right questions and getting the right information, not just a good feeling from a good salesperson.
Well put. Not just a good feeling from a good salesperson, right? So important questions to ask your contractor. And again, text us with any questions for Reagan Brown with the GB Group at 916-747-4622. Give us a call, 888-923-1380. So what are some of these questions that we should be asking our contractors?
Well, let's start with the business identity of the contractor. Okay, so first of all, you got to make sure they have a valid general contractor's license in the state of California or wherever your project may be. And you want to make sure that it's current and it's free of fines and complaints. And that's really important, that you take the moment to go to the contractor's licensing board. It's very easy. California has a really, really good proactive licensing board, easy to use. You can look them up by name. You can look them up by license number, by the practicing officer holding the license. And you can go in and pretty much see if they've had any bonding problems. They're really good about putting any lawsuit they've been involved with on their license. So it will give you practically down to their last divorce.
Yeah, it's so easy to do. It's so easy to look and find and determine whether a contractor is licensed. So we just signed up. We do with you guys. You assist us as forensic construction consultants. You do the destructive testing in our construction cases, and we just signed up a pretty big case. It's a 3-story, and we found out that it was a $20 million original build. $20 million original build. And it's, 6 years later, and we find out that, get this, guys, the contractor wasn't licensed.
That build
So,
a
talk
three-story
about assuming, and it's so easy, right? You could go right online to the Contractor State License Board, and there you see it. You could see,
You know what? Shame on the insurance company for insuring a contractor to build a project
How about
like
the
that
lender?
without. Yeah, that is true. And the lender. Okay, so just before we go to break here, because Frank's waving his finger at me in the back, Reagan referenced this. Everybody get your pen and paper out, or your smartphone, your tablet. If you want to check the status of your contractor, just go to www.cslb.ca.gov.
Look at the kid.
Man,
Wow.
It's amazing what you can do with Wi-Fi in here, right?
I'm impressed.
You think I memorized that?
Yeah.
So that's important. One thing to remember to take away before we go to break is always check the contractor's status.
First and foremost.
And if you were a contractor that was proactive, maybe you'd just send them a copy of that, right? Can you get a printout, Reagan, that just says, hey, we're free and clear, so we helped you out?
You still want to check it because it will show you their fines, their bonding problems, their history that they've had as a licensed contractor.
Right, and the other side of the coin, I have a case like this. Oh, we're going to get a break. I'll talk about the case when we
you're
come
going to leave
back.
a cliffhanger for him, the case, when we come back. Okay, we have Reagan Brown in studio. Frank's back on the sticks. We're going to go to commercial break, enjoy the weather, and stay tuned in.
Does your HOA community have a reconstruction or specialty project? The GB Group has been successfully serving community associations in California and Nevada for over 20 years. From renovation to reconstruction, exterior coatings and paint, ADA compliance, 24-hour emergency response, and more. Call the GB Group today, toll-free 1-800-653-7172. 1-800-653-7172. Or find them online at gbgroupinc.com. gbgroupinc.com.
If your community association has a good relationship with their current management company, you can stop listening. However, if you are struggling with your current service provider, we'd love to talk with you to see if Omni Community Management would be a good fit. Transparency, education, communication, and trust are just 4 of the qualities that set Omni apart. This is Rolf Crocker, CEO of Omni. Call us at 916-965-8964. That's 916-965-8964. Online at omni-mgt.com. That's omni-mgt.com. Omni Community Management, your friend in the community association management industry for over 20 years.
Have you ever heard of the saying, a person's home is their castle? Of course you have. But sometimes a construction defect can turn your castle into a catastrophe. If this happens to you, you need proper and professional representation. You need Angius&Terry, LLP. For over 30 years, the attorneys at Angius&Terry have been effectively serving homeowners and community associations, recovering more than $500 million on behalf of their clients. Angius&Terry strives to ensure that your construction defect claims are prosecuted in an aggressive and cost-effective manner. Angius&Terry will also continue to work with homeowners and community associations after the construction defect claims are concluded to make sure that the money received from builders is spent wisely and that your interests are protected during the repair process. Don't let a construction defect turn your castle into a catastrophe. Call Angius&Terry LLP today at 916-567-1400. That's 916-567-1400. Online at angius-terry.com. Angius&Terry LLP. Professional Parking Enforcement, or PPE, was created to provide effective parking solutions for all types of parking issues. PPE focuses on parking problems of HOAs and can quickly eliminate these problems through their system of property inspection, violation updating, ticketing, and enforcement. Contact PPE today at 702-283-0628, online at ppenv.com. PPE, promoting harmony in HOAs through parking and compliance enforcement. We take time to understand your community's needs.
Silver Creek Association Management.
We solve small problems before they become big ones.
Silver Creek Association Management.
We help make your community a better place to live.
Silver Creek Association Management.
It's what we do, because an association is more than just a bunch of homes. It's a community of people. We work with you to make better communities so homeowners can enjoy better lives.
Silver Creek Association Management. Online at sc-manage.com. That's sc-manage.com.
AM 1380. The Answer.
You're listening to the Saturday HOA Brunch presented by Angius&Terry LLP. And now your hosts Brad Epstein and Jonathan Broderick on AM 1380 The Answer.
Winston. Hey, we're back in studio. Sorry, hopefully you didn't hear any hot mic there, but we've got a call. Epstein, did you know that?
Fantastic.
Yeah, and her name is Lynn. So Lynn, welcome to the Saturday HOA Brunch, and do you have a question, or do you want to just give a shout out to a friend? What's your agenda here? Can you hear me, Lynn? Well, Frank's going to get that figured out.
We'll get it figured out. So while we're trying to get it figured out.
All right, you there, Lynn? Can you hear us?
I am.
There she is. I hear her. Lynn, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much. Thank you for the show. We appreciate it.
Oh, it's our pleasure. It's our pleasure that you're calling in on this. What a fantastic day. We're in such a great mood. We have Reagan Brown, the GB Group. Lynn, what can we do for you today?
2 questions. The first one deals with, we had a general contractor license do work out here to remove damage, trim and siding, and then do painting. They had a permit with the city that I live in that they had to replace dry rot 1-for-1. They marked trim dry rot for removal. However, they put caulking over dry rot instead of removing the dry rotted trim. So it's a matter of workmanship. I don't think there's anything I can do with the licensing board because the contract is with the HOA. I've brought it to the HOA's attention, but nothing's been done. And I don't know if they've put dry rot other areas of dry rot has not been fixed at my residence, and this has been for almost 2 years. Second question is, I called a couple weeks ago regarding a reimbursement assessment that I was levied. I requested a meet and confer meeting with the HOA.
Right, the ADR question. Yeah.
Yes, and I followed up with the HOA after the time period had expired because I never heard anything for a meet and confer meeting. I recently got a letter from the association's, just some small attorney, saying that please be advised that the board of directors is refusing your request to meet and confer. My question on that is, I know that an ADR is, and this reimbursement, alleged reimbursement, because they only provided me with the board decision letter, a copy of this alleged invoice. They never showed me that the HOA in any form paid that to justify a reimbursement assessment.
Got it. Yeah.
And in the hearing notice, they also did not state that I had the right to attend and address the board, which my understanding in looking up that's required. So my question is, going to an alternative dispute resolution, the next step versus a small claims court, I would have to share in attorney expenses. I would have to share in a mediator expenses. And my question is, it seems ridiculous, or I guess I'm trying to understand why then I would have to share those costs if they're refusing my meet and confer request, which my understanding an HOA must have that. They can't refuse it. So my next step is, do I request an alternative dispute resolution because the reimbursement was under $1,000, or do I go to small claims court directly and say, hey, this isn't right? Do I report this attorney to their state licensing board? Because I'm concerned now, whoever this small-time attorney is. And then my next concern going forward is, this has been going on since I paid this in September of 2015. I followed up with them from the letters I got, and from a courtesy letter and false past due statements. HOA never responded. My concern is, come the 1 year point in September, could they falsely put a lien on my place saying non-payment, at which time I understand they have to have a meet and confer meeting with me before they do that. And then also, in a month from now, I want to run for the board of directors so this doesn't happen to anybody else. Can they falsely say, I'm not qualified because you're not a member in good standing, which is required by our governing documents in order to run for the board? So I'm getting no assistance from the HOA board nor from the management company, and I'm not certain what the next step is. It's crazy.
Wow, some great questions, Lynn. So the first one we're going to tackle is the dry rot situation where you talked about, it sounds like possibly that they didn't fulfill what their obligation was per the contract. So we're going to let Reagan tackle that.
And I actually, when this did happen, I did put in a written request to the HOA, to the management company, requesting a copy of the general contractor's contract. I haven't received that. That was when this first occurred, which my understanding in looking at this, I can take them to small claims court and say, I didn't receive this contract. Boom, the HOA is liable for $500 because they didn't provide that within 10 business days. Well, I'm just, you get no cooperation, and I just don't know where to go.
Get on that board, Lynn. Get on that board.
I was on it when I first was a homeowner many years ago. Yeah.
Well, first of all, if the scope of work was written that they were removing dry rot and replacing with new and then painting, and they left behind dry rot, the contractor state licensing board does say contractors are not allowed to cover dry rot. So if they in fact did cover it, then you are entitled to file a complaint. If it was specifically not in that scope of work, meaning they were only doing one building at a time and they had not yet done your building, then you don't have any grounds to stand on yet because they haven't actually performed the work or it wasn't in the contract. So the first step would be to make sure your unit was included in the scope. And if it was, and no one is acting on your complaint, you can file the complaint at the contractors board and it will come back that they'll have to address it.
Good advice. Good advice. So that's question one. Question two is actually just as straightforward. So the question two is, and actually what Lynn has done is she has correctly stated the law, right on point.
She got her Davis-Sterling Act out in front of her?
IDR, Internal Dispute Resolution, that's in the Davis-Sterling Act, Civil Code sections 5900 through 5920, and those provide that an association must indeed accept an owner's request to meet and confer. And so if an owner makes a request to an association, the association fails to meet and confer, they're incorrect and they can be liable. This is about a reimbursement assessment, and a reimbursement assessment is dependent upon an association's CC&Rs. So we've talked about on our show regular assessments, special assessments, and special individual assessments, of which reimbursement assessments are a subset. And so that is when an association spends money and it is an owner's fault, and the association can impose an assessment for that, but only if it's in the CC&Rs. So we would have to look in the CC&Rs to see if it was even legal. And number two, if the association, and what's important to Lynn is whether the association can file a lien and foreclose a lien for that. And also you would have to look at the CC&Rs to find that out. So she's saying, well, what the heck can I do? The association has failed. She got a little letter from a little attorney. I like how she puts it.
Yeah, a little suit.
Right, in a little suit. And I think the best strategy is still, I'm going to stick with my first answer, and that is I think that Lynn should send the association a request to participate in mediation. So, Lynn, I'm thinking that's what you should do, is send the association a letter and say, I want to mediate this issue about the reimbursement assessment. Lynn, I don't want you to feel worried about this because if someone is threatening a lien on your home, that's pretty darn important, right? And so there's many a slip between cup and lip to get to the point where they're going to take your home. It's very far away. Go ahead, make that request for ADR.
Put your dukes up, Lynn. Thanks for the call. We're going to get back to our guest and find out some more information on how to select a contractor so that they don't run into some of the issues it sounds like possibly Lynn has going on in her community association. So, before we went to the break last time, Reagan says, you know what? Get on that website, check the contractor status.
Easy to do.
That's step number one. Step number two, Reagan.
Well, we're still on business identity, and you want to make sure that they have the proper insurance, right? We were just talking about your lawsuit over there. So the policy needs to be up to date. You need to know what the limits are. You need to know that it includes multifamily riders, not excludes, but that they actually have the inclusion to work on HOA or multifamily units.
How important is that?
It's everything.
It's everything.
And it's probably the number one thing that they don't look at. And when things go bad and they assume that the insurance policy is in place because they got a copy of $1 million policy, they learn that the rider is not in place and that it does not cover HOAs. Yes, and that's really a big issue. So make sure you have a complete copy of the insurance riders.
Without that, if there is defective construction, then you won't have recourse. An association needs to have recourse for construction defects, right?
Yes. The last part of the business identity that you really want to make sure you understand about the contractors is whether or not they're financially stable. And that would mean knowing that how long have they been in existence, how many employees do they have in the company, how many current jobs are they working on at the time of your interview, because they may be large or small, but they don't have enough employees to cover the new job you're
proposing. Projects that are rolling out.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to drop any names here, but there was a huge fallout in our industry, the community association industry, with a company that maybe thought it had more arms and legs than it did. And it left a lot of community associations high and dry in the middle of some really, really big, important projects. Vendors were burnt. Management companies were burnt. Material vendors, a lot of them were just left high and dry. So I think that's important too, is checking manpower, like you mentioned, Reagan, seeing what jobs they have going on. And make sure that they've done jobs that are similar or equal to the one that you're going to do. The guy that replaces mailboxes doesn't need to go put in 50 windows.
Correct.
All right, we're going to go to break. What are we going to talk about? We did business identity. What's next, Reagan?
Business practices.
Business practices. Go practice your golf swing, Epstein. All right, we'll be back from the break.
4.
Having trouble understanding your community association's reserve study? Does your HOA's reserve study seem to be written in a strange language? Hi, I'm Robert Browning, owner of the Browning Reserve Group. At the Browning Reserve Group, we have been providing easy-to-understand reserve studies since 1999. We actually listen to our communities and help them plan for the future. Find us online at browningrg.com. That's browningrg.com, or toll free at 877-708-0600. That's 877-708-0600. Clarity from complexity. The Browning Reserve Group.
If you are a community association or manager, you know your banking relationship is vital to your success. At Sacramento Bank of Commerce, a division of Reagan Bank of Commerce, our industry expertise and personal attention make that task a breeze. With our specialized banking, lockbox, online banking, and remote deposit capture, trips to the bank are no longer necessary. And Sacramento Bank of Commerce can help your communities with a loan to repair, replace, or upgrade the investment. For local decisions and in-house processing, get in touch with our team today. Call Sacramento Bank of Commerce at 916-772-0131. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Did you see the story about the Homeowners Association? I wonder what their residents think.
I don't know, but I love my condominium association. The place looks great and is well managed, and our property values are increasing.
Well, that's a good thing.
Community Associations Institute, CAI, has helped us build a great community. They have tools for safeguarding our investment, including education for our board and professional training for our manager. Just visit CAI at responsiblecommunities.com.
Okay, responsiblecommunities.com.
Does your HOA community have a reconstruction or specialty project? The GB Group has been successfully serving community associations in California and Nevada for over 20 years. From renovation to reconstruction, exterior coatings and paint, ADA compliance, 24-hour emergency response, and more. Call the GB Group today, toll-free 1-800-653-7172. 1-800-653-7172. Or find them online at gbgroupinc.com. gbgroupinc.com.
News, opinion, insight. AM 1380. The Answer.
You're listening to the Saturday HOA Brunch presented by Angius&Terry, LLP. And now your hosts, Brad Epstein and Jonathan Broderick on AM 1380, The Answer.
Back, third quarter. See that game last night? Heck of a game. There's a lot of fans in the Bay Area that are pumped, right? Because the Warriors won.
I wonder if there's many Cleveland fans out here.
I don't know, but I think there's a lot of bandwagon Kings/Warriors fans now in the area. But anyways, that's besides the point. We're not talking basketball. We're talking how to interview your next construction company. But you have a shout-out or an announcement.
Right. Jonathan, remember it was about, I think, 5 months ago, approximately, when one of our regular callers asked us to ask anyone if they would be able to donate organs, right? It was pancreas and a kidney. It's one of our regular listeners, Claire.
Up in Cameron Park.
And she was saying in dire need. So we made that announcement, and it is a part, I don't think the story has ended happily yet, but she indeed got a pancreas and a kidney.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
All because of our announcement. No, I'm just kidding. Well, that's great.
Right.
I'm happy
so
for
far,
Claire.
So good. In the hospital. She is in. It's not Claire, but someone she knows. In the hospital, and so far so good. It's been about a week with a brand new. Well, I guess it's not brand new.
Yeah.
But someone's pancreas and kidney.
And Frank said it was his. He's waving. He's showing you the scar.
Right. And what was interesting about it is, you guys probably didn't know this, and maybe you did. I didn't. They leave the old pancreas and kidney in nowadays. They don't take it out. They say you don't need to. You just leave it in there, and it shrivels up. All right, so we've gotten some texts, and they're very complimentary, so thank you so much. It is 916-747-4622 for text. Calls 888-923-1380.
Business practices.
Yeah, so now we're going to talk about the actual methods that the contractor conducts business while on site. So some of those questions that you should be asking is, do they use subcontractors, and how many will you be using? Are they easily identifiable? And the reason there's a mixed school on this, on the school of thought, some people want a contractor that can do everything under their umbrella, like painting, plumbing, electrical, roofing. Those all require specialty licenses. Others believe that it's a good idea to subcontract to companies that specialize only in those things, so that you guarantee you're getting people who are the best at doing that one type of license. So if you are going to have a subcontractor on the project, know what types of service the subs are providing, and make sure that all of their insurances, workman's comp, and of course their contractor's licenses are current and up to date as well. So there is a bit of a layer, but the good thing about a general contractor over a subcontractor is their insurance will cover if they default. So if they go out of business, if your roofer is under your general and he goes out of business, the general still has to hold the warranty.
Safety net.
Yes.
Net.
Right. As a board of director, they have a fiduciary duty. So the old belt and suspenders approach, the general contractor's insurance plus the subcontractor's insurance. So practically speaking, how would a board member or community association manager do that? What they've done is they have a contract with the general contractor. So how would they, what's the best way for them to say, find out about the subcontractors? Is it just a written request, or?
No, they simply ask, in the scope of work for their project, how many subcontractors will you be using? And the general needs to tell them that list. And then they also need to provide their insurances and their copies of everything as well.
Yeah, one thing that I see a lot of associations miss is when the contract with the association and the general contractor provides for, they have to carry this insurance, they have to provide the insurance policies. They actually don't follow through and get those policies. They don't do it. Everything's going really fast. They're signing the contract. It's really a big deal to sign $1 million contract, and mobilizing, and there's a meeting with the owners, and no one actually goes to the contract and says, hey, why don't you go ahead and email me your insurance policy? I don't see it happening a lot.
Yeah, and that's, again, you want to make sure that before you start a project with a contractor, all these things have been answered, and that you're very clear on what the scope of work is and who's doing what parts of it. One of the good parts about having subs under a general and not breaking it out of the contract is you do get that extra layer of protection. And as Jonathan mentioned, even some large companies have gone under and left people holding the bag with no warranty. And so by having everybody under a general, you do have a better opportunity at keeping your warranties intact down the road.
Right. We're still dealing with that fallout.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's you'll be in safe hands with the GB group because they've been around for 25 years, which incidentally is the same as Angius&Terry has been around. And no coincidence,
No.
Just great companies stay around a long time.
That's right.
Is there anything else that you want to highlight and continue with business practices, Reagan?
Yes, you might want to ask them some of the other ways about how will they communicate with your association. Will they be posting notices? Will they be holding town hall meetings? In what method will they be setting up on your property, so that you have a good understanding of their professional acumen and how they're going to behave around all your homeowners?
It's super important to hire a contractor that knows community associations. Our caller this morning illustrated the point. She talked about the attorney that really didn't know community association law.
Yeah, the little suit.
Right, the little suit, the little guy in the little suit. And it is super important because nowadays with contracting and with being a CPA, an attorney, what have you, you need to have someone who knows associations.
Right. One time recently, we went to go bid for a project, and the board wanted to use one of the board members' brother-in-law, who held a contractor's license. And we were trying to explain to them, just because you hold a contractor's license doesn't mean you're qualified to work in a multi-unit project like this, because number one, every time you step on that property, you're dealing with every single homeowner as if it was their single project.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen a condominium association hire their maintenance personnel to replace dry rot and to paint the whole community.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
And I think this started probably about, 4, 5, 6 years ago, and I still drive by there, and the community is still halfway painted.
Yeah.
And completed. It's crazy.
Right, and I want to say
one-man
that,
crew.
Yeah, and that story I wanted to say is a Bay Area small association. They're just replacing the carports, and the contractor wasn't doing a really good job. In fact, it just seemed like the workers that the association hired weren't the folks that were out there doing the work. And the association checked after the job got started, and they found that the contractor wasn't licensed, had no license. And so the association kicked the contractor off the job. The contractor said, well, pay us for the work we've done, $20,000. That's no chump change, $20,000. And our firm wrote a letter to the contractor and said, you're not getting anything because you're not a contractor. As a contractor, the state law says if you're going to do a job that requires a contractor, you're not a contractor, you can't get paid. You can't go into court.
That's a great point that you brought up, though, that you can fire your contractor if you don't like the way things are going. You don't have to keep a crappy contractor. You can terminate your contract.
And hopefully
and
when they're going to do that, they'll actually have a good set of specifications, and they'll know the scheduling of the process. The contractor, well, they're obviously firing him, so he's not having all the characteristics of telling them where they're completed, how far through the contract they are, scheduling annual job walks, keeping a clean job site. So, but at least have a solid specification of the work that you intended to have completed, so that you could pass it along maybe to another contractor if you had to slice the head off of the old one that you gave the contract
Right. Now
to.
you're kind of diving into our last category of construction practices. And that's exactly where you want to know is there a full-time supervisor on site during the entire course of the project? Are you going to be providing a complete written construction schedule available either maybe at your mailboxes, each individual homeowner receives it? Is it going to be on the internet, on a website that we can log into? So you want to get a feel for how are they going to communicate with the homeowners, because the board does not need to take on all this added job for a construction project to take place. They need to do their due diligence up front, make sure they have the right people in place, and it should not become an expensive added amount of time and effort for the manager or the board. Complaints from homeowners should not be going to the board. They should be going to the contractor. If there's questions about what's going on, it shouldn't be bugging the manager. It should be going to the contractor. So having somebody there on site full-time, knowing how to access that individual, knowing how to reach them after hours if there is an emergency.
And knowing how to just have that contractor that can just put out the problem and the fire immediately is important. Frank, I think you're waving your hands that we're going to go to break here pretty soon.
Why is he? Maybe he's waving his hands for another reason.
He is, but
Should we get in there and help him out?
No, I'm gonna give a shout out though to a friend of our show, the sponsor of our show. Excited, he's sponsoring a foursome for me to go play in next week. Reagan, you're playing in it.
That's golf.
It's for the CAI Bay Central chapter, Community Associations Bay Area chapter.
Golf
We're going to go
tournament?
play at like Tilden Park in Berkeley and go hack it up there.
It sounds hoity-toity.
Yeah, and so is broadband agreements. So if you need any consulting for your right of entry for cable and internet TV access, call Morgan Fussell. We'll be back.
Agreements.
Hi, this is Rick Russo, owner of Russo Insurance Agency and Financial Services. We proudly serve Granite Bay, Roseville, Rockland, Sacramento, Lake Tahoe, and the surrounding areas. At Russo Insurance Agency, we like to say, get to know us before you need us. Our insurance agency is built on relationships and trust. If you want to be certain that your most valuable assets are insured correctly, allow us to give you more than just a 15-minute quote. For all your commercial, home, auto, and life insurance needs, call us today at 916-791-1901. That's 916-791-1901, or online at rickrussoinsurance.com. That's rickrussoinsurance.com. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Morgan Fussell. My company, Broadband Agreements, negotiates cable television and broadband right of entry, access, and compensation agreements for your communities. At Broadband Agreements, we offer a free review of all agreements with a signed letter of authorization. Broadband Agreements will improve your community's income and/or savings, or you don't pay us a dime. Visit us at broadbandagreements.com. That's broadbandagreements.com. Or call me, Morgan Fussell, directly at 916-939-5026. That's 916-939-5026. Broadband Agreements online at broadbandagreements.com or 916-939-5026.
The challenges presented by today's economy and rebounding housing market is forcing many homeowners association boards of directors to operate their HOAs more like a business. It's a balancing act of trying to stay solvent and still provide homeowners with quality amenities and services. One of the main challenges HOA boards are facing is attempting to recover unpaid HOA fees owed by delinquent homeowners. Collection efforts are often very time-consuming. If you want to get the HOA fees collection monkey off of your back, call ATC Assessment Collection Group. ATC is an attorney-supervised collection company providing collection and foreclosure services to HOAs in both California and Nevada's most recognizable communities. Get back to what you actually volunteered to do as an HOA board member. Effectively oversee your community. Call ATC today at 916-641-1410. That's 916-641-1410. Online at atcacg.com. That's atcacg.com. ATC Assessment Collection Group.
Professional Parking Enforcement, or PPE, was created to provide effective parking solutions for all types of parking issues. PPE focuses on parking problems of HOAs and can quickly eliminate these problems through their system of property inspection, violation updating, ticketing, and enforcement. Contact PPE today at 702-283-0628, online at ppenv.com. PPE, promoting harmony in HOAs through parking and compliance enforcement. We take time to understand your community's needs.
Silver Creek Association Management.
We solve small problems before they become big ones.
Silver Creek Association Management.
We help make your community a better place to live.
Silver Creek Association Management.
It's what we do, because an association is more than just a bunch of homes. It's a community of people. We work with you to make better communities so homeowners can enjoy better lives.
Silver Creek Association Management. Online at sc-manage.com. That's sc-manage.com.
AM 1380. The Answer.
You're listening to the Saturday HOA Brunch presented by Angius&Terry, LLP. And now your hosts, Brad Epstein and Jonathan Broderick on AM 1380, The Answer.
Oh, let me run back over. Sorry, I was putting in the hallway. We're back with Reagan. We're excited. We're going to go play 9 holes after this. I want to give a shout out to another avid listener and fan, Bruce G, who's always tuning in. Great guy. Worked with him quite a bit in the past. And so thanks for listening, Bruce. And we hope everything is going well for you as we start to begin this hot summer. But Reagan, let's finish this up because there's been a lot of good information that you've been giving the listenership today. And I feel like boards are going to be a lot better at selecting their contractor. So let's finish it off. We were talking about construction practices.
Right. One of the things the contractor should do is attend your monthly meeting to give their updates to your homeowners. And it's really important that they give that update and not the board or the manager, so that they can answer questions and it doesn't get convoluted. And so you should know when you're interviewing your contractor, who is it that is going to attend those meetings? Will it be the superintendent on site? Is it a foreman? Is it the owner of the company?
Maybe it should be all three. Depends.
Maybe it should be all of them, depending on the project. So that's very important. And then also you might want to know, how many workers are we expecting to see on site every day? Are we going to see 5 or are we going to see 45?
Yeah, because that's important. You don't want to see the old, well, we started with 3. Wait a minute, today we've got 12. Well, then how come we're not finishing this building? Because now we only have 2 guys out here. What's going on? You want to see a consistent workforce throughout the duration of the project.
And that schedule that we talked about before break is really important because that's going to keep you on track with knowing when and where the contractor should be in the course of the project.
That is important. A very strict schedule at the beginning should be laid out for the association, and they should probably inform the members too, not just the board, not just the manager, but let everybody know when they're going to be working on one building or the other.
2 other quick points. One is when you are interviewing them and you want to get a list of references for similar projects, you can also ask if they have any current projects going on that you could go look at. We do quite a few field trips, believe it or not, where they like to go out and see what it looks like and how does the site look, and are they following typical Cal OSHA policies and that sort of thing as well.
Throw them on the GB group school bus and take them out for a field trip.
That's a great idea. You know, it takes a little bit of work, a little bit of time, but it's well worth it, isn't it?
It's really not as much time as you think. It's probably less than an hour of
Yeah,
getting them
no-brainer.
over there and go look at it, and you can give them a real good feel of what their job should look like.
Right. Let me just jump in because one of our texters gave us a nice idea, too, with respect to insurance coverage of contractors. And this texter gives the idea of, and I really like it, it makes sense to obtain coverage from the former contractors on an annual basis in the event that you use them in the upcoming year, right? And then this saves time, and you know, it still will require a review of coverage just before the contractor is engaged. But, you know, then you could see they got their workers' comp and general liability. Good idea.
Absolutely, especially if they're doing repairs for you during the course of the year prior to your big reserve project coming up or anything like that. You can do lots of preliminary work to get yourself ready.
Well, yeah, because, for example, you guys have probably an emergency repair division. So,
yes, we do.
You know, it's always nice to have your contractor's information on file and current so that when they call the GB group and they say, oh, we've got a huge leak and it's flooding 4 units, they can just pick up the phone. Depending on what authorization the board's given the manager, they can say, oh, yes, it's approved. Reagan, just get out there and have your boys take care of this so that they can stay dry the rest of the winter.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the one topic we didn't talk on, and we have just a few minutes left, this could go for its entire own show, but we'll briefly go through it, is when do we need to use a construction manager and when do we not need to use a construction manager?
First, what is a construction manager? How do we define a construction manager, Reagan?
A construction manager usually is an entity in themselves that carry their own license. They can be an engineer, an architect, or just a general contractor that specializes in writing scope, qualifying contractors, overseeing projects.
So since we have 2 minutes left, why don't you just tell us what projects you think an association should consider using a construction manager on, because sometimes they get a little bit anxious and they don't understand when is a good time to utilize a construction manager.
The dollar value does not necessarily dictate the construction manager. It's the complexity of the scope of work, or if the board does not have good
communication amongst each other
themselves or with their homeowners. If there's a lot of dissension on the property, they